Come along, children. Now we're going to have a little music.
Hey guys, welcome to First Cut. I'm Andres.
I'm Sabrina.
And this is our review of Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, a movie that is now out right now on VOD, and a movie that's gotten quite a bit of attention, especially during this time of COVID-19, where most movies are being released on VOD, but none have really made an impact. Maybe the Ben Affleck movie, The Way Back, a little bit, but that movie was also previously, going to theaters. This one felt much more like a VOD release, even though it hit theaters right when COVID was happening. So it didn't have a lot of attention around it. So now it's getting a lot of critical attention because it is a quality film, and it is a film that has a lot to say, Sabrina. And I'm going to start off by saying it's directed and written by Eliza Hittman. Its focus features behind it, and it's about a girl, her name is Autumn in the movie, who finds out that she's pregnant. And she kind of deals with the emotions of an unwanted pregnancy and living inside a state that doesn't have an option for her. What are your thoughts on this movie, Sabrina? Because I feel like it obviously has a lot to say. It's a very emotional movie. It's a very quiet movie, not a lot of dialogue. I feel like a lot of it is mainly focused on the acting and her emotions throughout the scenes, and less so on the dialogue and what she's outwardly saying and more what she's inwardly saying.
Yeah, no, exactly. I echo everything you just said. I mean, this is a very heavy subject matter, which is unintentional teenage pregnancy and kind of where to go from that point. The choice that she makes kind of is the start of the entire film, because the rest of the film is her journey through that and kind of like going through all the necessary steps she has to take and kind of, as you said, living in a state that doesn't let her have the option for an abortion and having to travel with her cousin. I think the directing kind of really captures the true experience as a young woman in the world, not even in just that situation, but just the way men or other people around you kind of perceive you. At the start, we kind of have some teenage boys like hassling her a little bit. And then throughout, there's just random people that she kind of has these interactions with that make us feel gross, like as an audience watching this. And it is very, very true to life, because this happens all the time for women just going about their day, walking around, doing their thing, and kind of the experiences that we all have. So every man in this film is kind of shown in a little bit of like a weird way, every single one almost. There is very little dialogue, as you said. It's a slow burn, definitely, but it's warranted in that way because it's very hard hitting and emotionally rich. There's this kind of like quiet despair throughout this entire journey with Autumn that we feel so deeply. Whether you are a male or a female, I think you can understand the kind of pain and despair that she's feeling with this journey. And the very personal point of view it kind of has in the film that we share with Autumn, it's such a realistic reflection of going through the situation. I think the scene that includes the titular line, we talked about a little bit before we started filming this, and it is my favorite scene of the entire year so far. It's so subtly impactful. Obviously, there hasn't been that many releases this year so far that have like really hit for me. There's a few, but this is one of those. I think even in an exceptional beginning, like first few months of the year, this would still make a huge impact. But especially with what we have right now, this is so much exponentially better than a lot of what I've seen. There's a lot.
Everything you said, obviously, to me, as I was watching the movie and as we were following Autumn, who's played by Sydney Flanagan, as I'm reading right here, I kind of felt like, okay, we feel the weight of what Autumn is feeling right now. And we feel the weight by the direction and by the acting. So a lot of credit to them. But halfway through the movie, I kind of felt like, wow, Autumn really hasn't had an opportunity to really speak and to really kind of showcase what she is. Obviously, she opens up with a talent show and a very personal song. But at the same time, we haven't had a big acting moment. We haven't had a big performance moment for a titular character like Autumn until we got to that scene. Because that scene, the way it was directed, Eliza Hittman literally just leaves the camera on her, doesn't cut back to the doctor, just leaves it on her for every single personal question. And she has to rate the scale of truth between never, rarely, sometimes, and always. And when we find out how brutal and how personal these questions are as an audience, we feel like the answer should be never to all of them, but that's not the case. And we start to realize maybe our perception of what a late term abortion isn't necessarily I'm a teenage girl and I don't want this crap on me. And it's more like, oh no, I've been abused my whole life. And this is just another form of abuse that's put on me that I didn't want. And I'm stuck in a place where I have to live through it unless I do the extreme measures that I go through that she does in this film.
Yeah.
So that scene is the acting performance, is the directing performance of the entire movie.
I think again with what you said during that scene and her kind of not detailing, just highlighting a little bit of the behind the scenes, the abuse she's endured. I think it's so important, and this is something that I absolutely love that the film did, was not shine any light on who the abuser was. We have no idea. It could have been anyone. There might be little signs throughout the film, but it never shines a light on actually, because I don't want that person story at all in this. I want her story. I want what she's experiencing, because getting dark, but I mean, this is something that is so common, just in all different aspects, whoever it is in the film. With the statistics that we have for people enduring like some type of abusive relationship, the statistics that talk about how it's like people, it's a high percentage that it's someone you know and someone you trust and someone you care about. And so I think shining a light on her and how she's kind of admitting to going through this abuse, and kind of you see throughout that entire scene how all the emotion that comes up to the surface, and that's something that I absolutely love from that performance. And yeah, it really is. I would encourage anybody who kind of isn't really knowledgeable on the subject to really watch this and experience what other people have in their real life, because it is such a true, like, it's a topic that is so relevant today, and it's always been relevant, and it's unfortunately probably going to be relevant for a long time. I feel like unless a lot of people experience something like this, how did you feel watching it as a man?
Well, what stood out to me, if I'm being honest, was what you said in the beginning, was the way they framed every man in this movie as kind of almost like through her eyes and her perspective, and the way she viewed him. It was different than the way maybe in different movies we can view men, but the way that they're cackling, the way they made fun of her, the way she was abused by them, the way that her store manager was a total creep and borderline like rapey.
The man on the subway.
The man on the subway.
That was like
Even the kid on the bus. Like every single dude in this movie was kind of like an antagonist towards her, and every single person that had an interaction with her was a woman. Think about it. When she walked in the clinic, I don't know if you noticed that, but I did. I was like, oh wow, they're all women. Every single doctor, every single front desk person is a lady that is speaking to them inside this clinic, and either clinic she went to, even the clinic that didn't give her the advice she wanted, they were still all women. And I thought that was fascinating, because it shows almost the encouragement that women bring each other together, or the ability to almost tear each other down too. In the beginning, with the lady showing her that video without any regard of how she feels. And towards the end, with that lady saying, if you want me to hold your hand, I'll hold your hand. And I know I just met you. And the idea of this lady who just met this young girl, and that young girl kind of saying, yeah, I want to hold your hand throughout this procedure because I'm afraid. That interaction and that encouragement and that togetherness that is presented between women was something that, as a dude, I was like, oh, okay, so that's how it is. It really is that personal connection that you have together. And the fact that she did that together with her cousin Skylar, who knows what could have been if she did it alone, right? So it's that idea of this sisterhood, that is this unspoken sisterhood that really brings these women together.
And that's the thing that's so important about showing those female relationships, because on a certain level, I think like women can empathize with each other so much because we have that shared experience. The thing about it is like we either know somebody, we are somebody who has gone through something like this. It really is something that is so sad that that's true. But yeah, her cousin in the film, I know you have the actress's name.
Yeah, her name is Skylar in the movie, and the actress's name is Talia Reid.
They
Talia Ryder, I'm sorry.
they are both so incredible. They have really great like chemistry, like emotional chemistry, kind of like a connection. Because as we said, there's not a lot of dialogue. It's not, we can't really build up this like backstory between the two of them. So we have no idea what their relationship was like before this, if they were like super close. But I feel like through this shared experience of going with somebody that you care about, or just another girl going with her on this journey, it is just, it's so wholesome, it's so sweet, because it's a hard journey that they go through over that course of like 3 days. I wouldn't know how to react just not being able to like shower, having to sleep in like subway stations, things like that. So they have just like a beautiful, beautiful relationship throughout this film that kind of like blossoms in front of our own eyes.
Yeah, obviously this is a great directed movie by Eliza Hittman. This is a
Yeah.
great movie in general. I really do recommend people check out this movie because there's not a lot out there, to be
Yeah.
frank, to be honest, but also because it really is an interesting perspective that I feel a lot of people can get a hand on, especially when it comes to teenage pregnancy, depending on what state you live in America nowadays. Any final words, Sabrina?
Yeah, definitely. I'm echoing everything you just said. Please check this out if you are able to. If it is heavy, it's bleak, but I feel like at the end the story wraps up in such a beautiful way that all that heaviness, all the weight just kind of lifts up a tiny, tiny bit, and there's just like a little bit of a glimmer of hope. So yeah, I definitely recommend checking it out.
At the end of the day, this movie does have that slight encouragement and that belief that, if women stick together and they help each other out, there can be a future for them.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the message at the end of the movie. So absolutely, there is encouragement at the end. So I highly recommend Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. We were joking before that we would mistake the title of this movie, but I feel like now we're going to make sure and say it correctly. But either way, guys, that is our review for this movie. Let us know in the comments down below if you want to check it out or if you already checked it out and what your thoughts are on the movie. And for the First Cut crew, I'm Andres.
I'm Sabrina.
Peace out, guys.
I'm going to ask you some questions. They can be really personal. Just answer either never, rarely, sometimes, or always.